Hi everyone, my name is Miguel Wilson, and I'm here to present my project, Whose Urinal is it Anyway? Black Femme Resistance in Public Restrooms. In the bathroom, I feel mischievous, I feel surveilled, I feel erasure, now unerased. More than 60% of trans people reported that they avoid using public restrooms. The study was done in 2021, so I'm not sure what the stat would be today. I imagine it's probably higher. Along with this, we have concepts that have come out of research, like situational hostility, which talks about the fact that a lot of trans people end up complying with cisgender expectations in order to stay safe in public interactions. While this research is very valuable, I think it oftentimes does a disservice to intersectionality, thinking about experiences beyond just white or deficit narratives of trans existence. And that's really bringing in the fore here queer troublemakers, these people that disrupt norms and make their lives livable. I myself would give myself the title, you all can be the judge, I suppose. But it leads me to my question. As someone who presents femininely, what motivates my choice to still use the men's restroom? As a queer troublemaker. So to give you an understanding of how I'm approaching this, my theoretical framework really pulls from these two areas of research that have done a great job of demarginalizing Black lived experiences. And so I'm really continuing in their line of thinking. Black feminist thought calls attention to the intersecting systems of oppression that are connected to our identities, and it talks about the fact that we can't necessarily parse through or separate them. We have to think about them as a whole, and this dates back to Kimberly Crenshaw's work. And then Black fugitivity, which talks about this enacting transgression of violence. You'll see here in this picture, it's a Black woman who's really doing her best to survive in a system that's literally meant to control her. It's this refusal to be subject to a law that refuses to acknowledge you. And it really something that's helped guide my practice and understanding my practice. So let's dive in. Before I get into the findings, and I'm actually just gonna really gloss over this because we can talk about it in the discussion if you'd like to, but I did a moderate autoethnography, which really talks about using your own personal experience to make sense of the world around you. And it does so using these evocative elements with the narrative, but also still utilizes rigor that we associate with typical or normative research methods. And yeah, I'm just gonna dive in because I have a lot to talk about. So, findings. I choose a stall when I have my big purse, only so I can be comfortable, but sometimes I can't wait. So the first theme of why I use the men's restroom still, even though I present as I do, is the fact that identity multiplicity grants me spatial rights to interact with these spaces as I see fit. As someone who is perceived to be a cis woman oftentimes, while also still identifying with masculinity and the body that I was assigned to, it's given me the ability to navigate the deceiver pretender bind that a lot of trans people are subjected to in a very interesting way. I'm not subject to it. And I think that's something that's really fascinating. I think it has something to do with Black women already being inherently masculinized. A lot of people also, there's been research looking at how people struggle to place the gender of a lot of people of color, more so than white people. And this also this idea that Black women are also not subject to the pressure to conform to hegemonic femininity in the same way as white women, because white women are the standard for femininity. These things really play into my practice, why I'm able to go to the men's restroom and also go to the women's restroom. And it's something as well that I was thinking about, and my observation as I was navigating the bathroom, is that a lot of times there are fewer resources given to women as well. I'm not going to wait in line, I have to go in. And unfortunately, a lot of times there's less options for women to go to the bathroom. You're seeing longer lines, and that's something that I'm able to negate. I talk about it more in my paper with a story of how that happens typically, but it's something that really does shape my practice. When I need to go, I waltz, saunter, strut, run to the urinal in a dress or in a skirt. I'm sure to hike it up high, and I need to adjust my thong as I turn to ask, how do you see me? Where should this body go? When has a John or a Luke thought of their privilege or questioned their own assumptions, been made to move over so this woman can dry her hands? The second theme is this refusal to be erased, and this really pulls directly from the work of people working in looking at Black fugitivity. And it's this idea that using the men's restroom is actually it's a means of maintaining a sense of self in the face of oppression. It's this ability to no longer be ashamed of parts of myself that a lot of master narratives would say I should be ashamed of. I should want to conform and hide this piece of myself. I'm not saying that it doesn't ebb and flow, but for the most part, I am really happy to be in this space. And I think that kind of shines through in these photos. You see, there's a bit of an element of play. It's fun to disrupt, and it's also feeding into a history. There's a history of people using restrooms and public spaces to challenge heteronormativity. I'll call attention to gay men cruising in bathrooms and using the space for their own good in a world that doesn't want them to be able to have any spaces to do what they want to do. But say I comply. Play by your rules. Will you protect me? The answer is not yet. I question my own body. Whether I really deserve to be in the women's room. Will someone feel the need to call me out for the unmistakable bulge in my dress? That's something I didn't talk about earlier, but a lot of my gender practice, while yes, people, they don't assume that I'm a man oftentimes, or a man, I'm using quotation marks, but I don't tuck. I sometimes have a little stubble today. I just got lazy, whatever. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna navigate spaces how I see fit. But there are no protections for gender nonconforming bodies in this world today, at least not widespread. And I'm scared of being invalidated or policed. And unfortunately, the women's restroom is not the safer place, the safe haven that we've been touted. Look at the death of Next Benedict, the countless other instances of violence and murder of trans people by cis and oftentimes white cis women. I think honestly predominantly white cis women. And there's something to be said about the ability to feel safe doing gender-bendy stuff in a space that isn't even necessarily supposed to be my space. And it's because when those of us who could live peaceful and visible lives choose to live so publicly, we have the potential to reconstruct trans narratives. I know I have way greater pull or ability to reconstruct a trans narrative in the men's restroom than I do in the women's restroom, where either people, honestly, they're not even gonna think. They don't think about it typically. They don't assume oh, you're a man in a dress, They don't see that. What they see is a woman most times, but also what does that do? What am I really, what dial am I moving? But then on the other hand, my safety. If a Karen says, you gotta get out of here, and they go to the manager, who do you think they're gonna side with? And unfortunately, as a Black trans person, that's an even greater issue. Something I do talk about in the paper is this element of class and how my education, my background, these are things that give me greater footholds, but they still don't really stand up to judge when systems of oppression are at play. I will always be the question mark. The reason ma'am, wrong bathroom turns into I'm sorry, but don't be sorry, be better. And maybe this is just my experience, a story outside the lines. May it help you make sense of me and of yourself, sparking confusion by chance acceptance and maybe even your own exploration. And shouldn't that be the goal? So some concluding thoughts. Why do I disrupt? As well as some future research ideas. The intersection of my identities privileges me. I'm not subject to the same disabled pretender bind. People don't assume I'm pretending to be something that I'm not, because I'm very firm about what I am. I know what I am. And you'll sense that immediately on meeting me. I also think about like the benefits of gender multiplicity. We need to study this further. We need to be thinking about this. We're thinking about raciality, about bisexuality, and how these populations have reported higher levels of resilience, the ability to code switch and navigate situations of microaggressions a little better, because they have this added benefit of another identity to bounce off of, as well as the cognitive flexibility that is available to these people. Hasn't really been researched for gender necessarily, so that's something to look at. I'm interested in that. Secondly, I refuse to be erased or ignored. It makes me think about, what motivates some of us to be visible. Why are some of us able to do that better? There's a lot of reasons why. Embodiment is definitely a big part of it, and what's deemed conventionally acceptable as well. But this conventional acceptability, I think, is something that I'm interested in, because those are the people that actually can make a change. They can move the dial. I know I can be held accountable for my gender at any time, and while it might seem counterintuitive, the potential violence of white cis women in these spaces is something that makes me uncomfortable. I feel much safer in these spaces that you might think, oh, like you wouldn't go to the men's restroom. But here we are. Passing means little in a world where gender still determines who is advantaged and who is disadvantaged. Let's imagine a world with truly gender-neutral bathrooms where people don't police each other and their bodies, and everyone finally understands that trans lives do matter. And I'm gonna add an amendment: Black trans lives matter. Thank you.